There are some things in life that we can never prepare for. When life changes in an instant. Kelly, are you alone? I need you to sit down. There's something I have to tell you. It was my mother on the other end of the phone. There was something different about her voice, but honestly, I didn't give it much attention. It was mid-morning. I was preoccupied in my own thoughts. I had so much to do that day, and I'd already felt like I was behind. I told her I was sitting, and she paused before saying anything more. I was growing impatient, but in the silence, I began to worry. What was going on? On the verge of tears, she finally spoke. Kelly, Danny killed her. Rachel's dead. He murdered her last night, and then he killed himself. I was struggling to wrap my head around the words she had just spoken. I didn't want to accept them. I couldn't accept them. I began to argue with my mother. You're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. I just spoke with her last night. She was fine. If something was wrong, I would have known. And he could have never done that to her. Not the person I knew. But she continued, Kelly, I'm sorry, but she's gone. The shock was overwhelming. It took me over. Feeling the desperation of the situation engulfing me triggered a release. Words are not adequate to describe the primal scream that came from inside me. My best friend, since childhood, had been brutally murdered by her husband. Life, as I knew it, came crashing down. Nothing would ever be the same, especially me. I had been introduced to grief in the most intense way. I could still hear the echoing of my mom's voice on the other end of the phone. She kept saying, I'm so sorry, Kelly. Sobbing uncontrollably on the floor of my kitchen and not knowing what to do next, I dropped the phone and went numb. Time lost all meaning. Nothing mattered. From that moment, I felt like I was in a dark cave with no way out. Yet, I have come a long way since then. Now, I'm not afraid to talk about the hard things. Sadness is hard. We're uncomfortable with it as a society. Because of that, we've conditioned ourselves to hide it, to numb it. But sadness is inevitable in this world. It's a natural part of our human experience, and it's probably the most universally experienced symptom of grief. Most important, there is no way through the grief journey without feeling it. We have to feel it to heal. Some sadness takes a long time to heal from, and even after we heal, it stays with us. There's no expiration date on it. I can still feel the searing pain of sadness that stayed with me for many years after. Yet that tragedy does not dominate or define my life as it did before. The sadness is still there. It will always be there. I've just found a positive way to channel it. Investing in the lives of others is how I find purpose. Part of my work, which was necessary for my own healing and grief, centered around producing a film called The Ravine, which tells the story of this tragedy and the incredible power of forgiveness. It gives me meaning to know I can put my grief into something that will reach and help so many others who are experiencing this as well by letting them know they're not alone. I want to make a difference by helping people lean into acknowledging their sadness as a way to heal themselves. Talking with others who are grieving can be uncomfortable. We fear we might say something wrong. We feel nothing we say will help. So we say nothing at all to a person who feels more alone than ever. We hope they'll box up that messy part of their grief and lock it away, and eventually get over it and get back to being the same people we knew. but they will never be the same. Before the loss of my friend, I too avoided the topic. I thought if I don't talk about it, maybe it won't happen to me. But it did happen to me. Grief doesn't exclude anyone. We all experience trials and tribulations in life. And I've relied on my faith in those moments. It's always given me a starting point. I found this promise to be most comforting to me when facing life's challenges. So I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. But my faith had never been tested like this before. After my friend's death, I was questioning that promise like never before, and the promise was fading. I felt like I had been abandoned, and it really angered me. I was on the verge of losing faith in mankind because of a senseless tragedy. The guilt was breaking me down. I felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. She was like a sister to me. How could I have missed the signs? What if I could have prevented it? I felt like I had failed her. As the details of that evening began to surface, I started having trouble sleeping at night. I had become fixated on her last moments. Haunting images ran through my mind, and it was absolute horror because I couldn't get them to stop. Feelings of betrayal were growing, and I couldn't fathom how I'd ever be able to forgive him. He took my best friend from me. I was filled with so much anger, and I was holding on to it so tightly. I was dying inside, but no one knew. I had become so good at stuffing the emotions of my grief down. Murder and suicide are hard conversations. I started thinking to myself, I wonder what I'll say when people ask me questions. But no one did. I simply wanted the pain to go away, but my silence and my silent inner struggles destroyed any hope for progress. I couldn't find my way out. With 3 young boys, there was never a quiet moment in our home. I not only had to find time to grieve, I also had to find a space for it. My closet became my sanctuary. And the boys had come to know if they couldn't find me, check the closet. And I'd hear them coming, fist banged on the door. Mom, what are you doing in there? Please come out. I wondered what my boys had thought, how they perceived the situation in the world around them. How could they be expected to come to terms with a situation I couldn't even navigate? I could not seem to find my way out. And I had finally realized that no matter how much I had begged, I couldn't undo what had happened. The cumulative effect of everything finally broke the dam, and it just all came flooding out as I cried out, why can't I seem to find my way out of this? Sometimes we can't explain how or why a gift shows up in our lives. My gift came in the form of meeting a wise woman named Joanna. A higher power sometimes uses people when we have trouble hearing. I needed to hear these words out loud. One day, I received an unexpected phone call from her, and she had a soothing voice with an air of compassion to it, and I trusted her almost immediately. Someone close to you told me of your struggle, and I'm here to encourage you. Grief calls us to go on a journey, Kelly. You lost a part of you, and it takes time. When you start to realize that certain things in your life happen no matter what, it starts to lighten the burden you carry. Accepting what happened is your first step. It's a gift you give yourself. It's how you move forward. It gives you the power to decide how your grief will be shaped. And you can't forgive what you don't accept. We must let go of anything that holds us in a dark place. Over time, anger can only hurt you. Do you feel like you've been angry long enough? In that moment, I had realized how tired I had become carrying my anger around with me, and I just wanted to put it down. That is the part that you can control. As you start to begin letting it go, it opens space for something new. And what you do next matters. It's how you find purpose. And don't be afraid of the sadness. It's a reminder of how much your person meant. A certain amount of it is healthy. Joy may seem foreign in your grief journey right now, but there's beauty everywhere. Sometimes it's just difficult to see. Be open to seeing the beauty around you. The conversation with Joanna, it was a lesson in my grief journey. She gave me the awareness of how important it is to receive. The conversation gave me hope. I had accepted a new thought. I have the capacity to find anything I want in a moment, but I first must give myself permission to not only seek the joy, but to feel it again as well. I had closed the door on my grief, wanting to keep it in the dark. And maybe there's something in your own life that you have kept hidden as well. It was when I finally opened the door to it that the light was able to direct my path out. I have learned a lot about myself and others on my grief journey, and some lessons stand out more than others, but this is what I know for sure. My faith is what sustained me when I felt my strength was gone. Life made me grow. We are designed to grow and expand, but sometimes that growth comes through pain, not ease. Getting through it made me stronger. It made me care more. I learned it's not only important, but it's also okay to ask for help when dealing with our own struggles. The more vulnerable I've become, the connections in my relationships have deepened. Sadness is an expression of grief, and grief is the price we pay for love. And I'm willing to pay that price. I don't want to stop loving. But we do need to live in a more accepting world that validates the emotion of sadness. By doing this, we help those who are suffering and struggling. We don't always have to know what to say. We don't have to fix anything. Just telling someone, I'm sorry you're going through this, gives them permission to talk with us. One of the most helpful things on my grief journey has been when someone has said, tell me about your friend. And I would start to talk about how she had the most infectious laugh. When someone's name is no longer spoken, they feel lost. Just listening to someone is one of the greatest things that you can do for someone. What would happen in your life if you made room for the emotion of sadness? I want to tell you about a story. Her name was Alice, a woman named Alice. We crossed one another's paths, and now she's a part of my story, and I'm a part of hers. I noticed a familiar sadness in her eyes. She seemed to have the weight of the world on her shoulders. I walked up, gently took her hand, and simply asked how she was doing, but I meant it. We talked. After her telling me about herself, her story, and what concerned her, she looked at me with these beautiful brown eyes and said, Kelly, that was so kind of you. No one seems to do that anymore. It takes courage to open ourselves up to others when it's uncomfortable. Courage means you're afraid, but you do it anyway. Be that person. Open yourself up to others. Listen to them. Care about them. Sometimes someone is telling you the most horrendous thing they've ever endured as a human, or they might just need to tell you about their day. Either way, it lightens their load when they tell their story. People forget what a little bit of caring can do. Be kind, be brave, Be the gift that might just help someone turn their light on in their world again. Thank you.